This saber-toothed creature with half reptilian, half mammalian features ruled over much of Pangaea, millions of years before the dinosaurs came to be. With giant fangs and powerful bites, why did these animals disappear so abruptly? They were apex predators in the land before time. These are the Gorgonopsians.
Hi, I'm Danielle Dufault, and you're watching Animalogic. Gorgonopsians were some of the most cartoonishly evil-looking genera of animals to ever live. They might have looked like sci-fi monsters, but they were very real, and they were fierce.
The Gorgonopsians first appeared about 265 million years ago in the Permian, a time before the dinosaurs. Some species gradually got larger until they became the apex predators of their ecosystem. Some of the species were the size of bears and dominated the cold steppes of Pangaea.
Their name comes from Greek mythology, where Gorgons were snake-haired monsters that could turn you to stone. The most famous of which, of course, was Medusa. But these guys looked more like demogorgons than spooky witches.
They evolved from the first proto-mammals to break away from the reptilian family tree. Though to our very mammalian eyes, they pretty much looked like funky lizards. They even had their legs on the side of their bodies, which is more common in reptiles than in mammals.
By the time Gorgonopsians showed up, they were looking more like the demon dogs we know and love. But were they more mammalian or reptilian?
Their legs were under their body, like in wolves, rather than to the sides, like in crocs or their ancestors. Their skulls were pretty mammalian, and most species had incisors, canines, and molars like we do. And some species, like the fearsome Enos transivia, had long limbs, which made them able to gallop.
And yet, they still had a lot of non-mammalian features.
They had a parietal eye, or third eye, which is a photoreceptive organ that helps cold-blooded animals know the time of day to release hormones that aid in thermoregulation. Being cold-blooded meant that they were less active than mammals. Their brains were more reptilian too, with a larger hindbrain than forebrain.
So overall, I'd say they were like if a Komodo dragon and a saber-toothed cat did the fusion dance. Yes, I said saber-toothed cat. I've been burying the lead here, but Gorgonopsians had gigantic fangs.
All Gorgonopsians had canines that could be replaced a number of times throughout their lives. They used them to stab prey and wait for it to weaken or bleed out before administering the coup de grace. Some of their prey was armored and would fight back, and often this would lead Gorgonopsians to lose their saber teeth. Thankfully, there was a backup dagger on the other side, and the broken one would quickly start growing again. But losing both fangs probably meant death, unless they could find enough carrion while their killing utensils grew back in.
If you've ever tried to eat a burger that was too big, you've probably noticed that the teeth get in the way of deliciousness. This problem was even worse for these beasts with banana-sized fangs.
To get around the neck of their prey, their jaws were double-jointed, which allowed them to open over 90 degrees without unhinging it. This jaw flexibility was necessary, especially because their necks were relatively stiff and were built more like reptilian necks. They could move well side to side, but had issues moving their head up and down.
No wonder they were called Gorgonopsians instead of Gorgoyespians. Okay, that's officially the worst joke I've ever told. Please don't leave.
Also, just like crocs, the muscles that closed their jaws were the temporalis muscles, the muscles on the sides of their head. This made them look bumpy-headed and terrifying, and was also enough to turn them into killing machines that took over their ecosystem. At the time, there was only one supercontinent, Pangaea, but their fossils have only been found in southern Africa and Russia, though they were pretty far from each other.
For a while, there was controversy regarding why there weren't any gorgons in central Pangaea, but now it seems it was only a question of climate.
Central Pangaea, during this time, was mostly deserts on the west side and swamps in the east. Russia and southern Africa were cold steppes, with large grazers supporting large carnivore populations.
And just like with bears and crocodilians, different regions gave rise to different species.
In Russia, the king of the north was Inostransevia. This is probably the most famous of all Gorgonopsians. It was about 3.5 meters long, with a skull the size of a bear's. It was also about 300 kilograms, about the same as a grizzly bear, though Inostransevia's were longer and shorter than Yogi. Their canines were about 15 centimeters long, and their limbs were proportionally longer than those of other Gorgonopsians, which suggests higher speeds for chasing and stabbing. Some of their prey, especially Scutosaurus, had lots of protective armor bones and thick muscle that made them a tough nut to crack. But it was also very slow, and an Inostransevia was able to stab it through the head, much like how jaguars hunt giant armadillos and caimans. The smaller Smilosaurus had the longest fangs relative to body size of all Gorgons, and used them to catch prey like Vivaxosaurus and Scutosaurus, which were like the reptilian cows of the Permian.
Of course, everything must come to an end, and in the case of the Gorgonopsians, the ending was painful and abrupt.
They went extinct during the Permian-Triassic event. High volcanic activity released lots of greenhouse gases, which caused global warming, acid rain, desertification, forest fires, and possibly a breakdown of the ozone layer.
Most of their prey died of starvation, and soon after, the Gorgonopsians disappeared. And then the Archosaurs took over as apex predators, starting the age of the dinosaurs.
But not all of the Gorgonopsians' prey died out. Some of the smaller species survived. They were the ancestors of a successful group of animals that live on to this day. Some of them are even watching this show right now. They gave rise to the mammals.
Thank you, Gorgonopsians, for not eating my grandma millions of generations ago. So what should I talk about next? Please let me know in the comments and be sure to subscribe for new episodes every week. Thanks for watching. See ya!